Live broadcasting stations.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
And with the first pick in the 2022 draft, will the Jacksonville Jaguars pick Trayvon Walker, the defensive end out of Georgia? Will it be Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan? Ikem Ikawanu, and I butchered that name, I'm sure.
Better than I would do.
The tackle from North Carolina State. Will it be Darryl Stingley, the corner from LSU? Charles Cross, the outstanding offensive tackle from Mississippi State. Maybe it'll be Ahmad Gardner, that corner from Cincy. Or Evan Neal, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Will the first quarterback be Malik Willis from Liberty? Will it be Kenny Pickett from Pitt? What about Matt Corral? What about Cincy's Desmond Ridder? These are all questions we don't know. Will there be trades? Carolina's got a need for a quarterback with the sixth pick. Would they move up? Seattle and the Saints, so they're rumored to be up for trade. San Francisco and Deebo Samuel are in the market because they don't apparently want to be with each other anymore. And he's got trade value. Kansas City and Jacksonville, the most picks. Miami's got the least, only 4. And then there is also this contention that comes from HBO Sports and their new kind of host, Bomani Jones, who says
Game Theory, right? Isn't that the name of that
Game
show?
Theory, yeah. He's an interesting cat. He started as a part of a panel with Bob Costas on his show, and HBO likes him, and they've made him a new host. Now, I don't know if this show was like sort of experimental, and I don't know if it's been renewed or if it is not. But he had this contention in his final show, and that was that the NFL draft is a bunch of malarkey. The only reason the NFL draft is in place is to keep salaries low on players. He thinks, and you could easily do this, that you got 7 picks of rookie players out of the collegiate or amateur ranks every year, 7 rounds, right? So you got 7 choices of players, and that you can sign anybody that will sign with you. And that would mean that a guy that is a rookie, if it's Malik Willis this year, that he could be anybody's player. The team that pays the most would get him, and therefore salaries would escalate. And that's why the league instituted a draft to begin with. He forgets that there could be like structure in a league that you need to have with equity for teams to have a chance to make it fair, to make it competitive. Forget that. For him, it's all about the money, but it is an interesting theory. But wouldn't New York and all these other teams that have better revenue streams than everybody else, wouldn't they all end up being automatically the best teams? Because they're the ones that would say, hey, Malik, or how about Arch Manning in a couple of years? Come with us.
You'd destroy the salary cap. It would be destroying the salary cap to do it that way.
But if you still had a salary cap, that would make it interesting, I guess.
Yeah. But I don't see how the two could coexist.
I think it would be hard. It would certainly inflate rookie salaries. I think that would hurt veterans in the long run, because if you're going to go, we're not giving you that big last contract because the odds are we're going to go with a young guy, and we may have to pay him more money, but we'll get him for more years, and it's time to make a change. I don't see how that would help veterans at all. Interesting thought, Bomani Jones contention, but see what Russell Copeland has to think about all that, because we're going to talk draft with him in the second segment of the show, and it is a big night tonight. I'm actually interested in where Dylan Parham and Calvin Austin are going to go. All the mocks that I've read, mainly the 4 guys from ESPN, they all have them 3 or 4 third or fourth round. None of them have him in the second round.
Well, it could go early, though. If how many wide receivers go in the first round is a big factor, right?
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, the more that go there, the better the possibilities for Calvin Austin. I still think Dylan Parham is a really solid guy. First of all, the guy is an athlete. He's huge. He's much bigger than he was. I couldn't put weight on him. But you realize he started as a tight end, went to the defensive line and out of the offensive line. He can play guard or he can play center for you. So he is incredibly versatile, athletic, and now big enough. Because it took a long time for him to gain the weight that he needed to gain. I am shocked that he is listed as a fourth rounder in many of these mocks. I would think he would go higher, especially in this draft. Although there's so many good offensive and defensive linemen, this is a line-driven draft based on all the mocks.
Which is strange to me, too, because I feel like, well, I really don't know, honestly. It seems like a deeper draft, though, than I've ever seen. Or maybe that just speaks to that there's no real standout guys.
Well,
there's a bunch of standout guys. I don't know.
No, that's what they're saying. I mean, this is not a superstar draft. This is a deep draft with guys that will be around for a long time. I don't know. Is Walker or Hutchison, which every mock has them either one or two. Are they superstar kind of guys?
Your guess is as good as mine, honestly. I have no idea. Walker was surprising to me, though, because he seemed to come out of nowhere in the past week or two. Maybe I just haven't been paying close enough attention, but he was not one or two picked. If you look back like a week or two ago, and all of a sudden he's jumped to the top of these charts, and Thibodeau's kind of fallen a little bit.
So we'll chat about that. We'll talk about the Grizz Game 6 tomorrow. Pete Pranica is going to join us. Ron Higgins has the day off, so Pete Pranica will join us at about 10:45. We'll talk Game 6. Will they start Brandon Clark? You know, they started Tillman, who, you know, I still say he saved the series. I really do, because you couldn't lose Game 2 at home and go down love 2, right? He saved the series, in my estimation. They started him last game. They didn't have a bad start. They were 13-2 up, right?
A great first run of the game.
So I don't know that I wouldn't go with Tillman again to begin the game. The reason they lost that lead, partially, was because Jaron Jackson Jr. got into foul trouble. As soon as he got that second foul, everything kind of changed. They need Triple J on the floor. They need him for defensive purposes. They are a much better team on that side of the floor with Triple J is there. As a rim protector, as a guy who can stay in front, as a guy who's just got length and understands Taylor Jenkins' team concept. You got to have him on the floor. Well, how many minutes did he play in the last game? It was like 17, right? I think that was all.
Yeah, 17.
17 minutes. So you got guys like Bain and you got Morant playing 44 minutes, and this guy plays 17? I mean, that you can't have that. You've got to have him on the floor at least 35 minutes, right?
Especially when you're already having to sit. Not that Brandon Clark and Tillman are doing a bad job at all, but you're already having to sit your starting center. You do not need two of your starters to have to sit out. One of them which because he can't match up, and the other which because he's in foul trouble too. I also would like him to be a little bit more discerning on offense a little bit, maybe get inside a little bit more.
I would love to see that. I would love to see his mid-range game.
Yeah.
You know, we said this before. The one area that he needs to work on the most, to me, is the mid-range jumper. He's so quick for a big man. He gets inside the first wall, and instead of just going to the hole all the time, how about a pull-up jumper? That would go a long way, I would think, for him.
Or back to the basket, post up, back to the basket jumper.
I'm okay with that too. He's got the length and he's got the quickness and the hops to do that. So I'm with you. His three is off. It was a weapon earlier. It is not a weapon now. It's almost a liability. Now, if he hits it, that's a different story. I get it. But I'm with you. At least try, if you're missing from the outside, to go a little bit more inside. What is the over-under for him for minutes for the Grizzlies to be successful? I do think it's like 35, 36 minutes.
I actually think, at least in this game and the end of this series, I think 17-20, I think they can still be successful, and it just depends on the way he's playing.
Because they won that game.
That's right,
but
exactly.
Come on, that was rather fortunate that they won that game, and Ja had to take it over. How often can Ja score the last 13 points in a game? How many times are you going to get 18 points in the fourth quarter with the pressure on?
You're absolutely right about that. There's no doubt. But let's just say if Ja isn't struggling the first three quarters, or Dylan Brooks isn't missing all these shots the first three quarters, or I guess Dylan Brooks missed shots all four quarters. But if those guys get going a little more, you're not as reliant on Jaren. Maybe it doesn't stick out as much. It's something that you can point to as a criticism of the team, but it maybe doesn't stick out as much when you see the final score.
Well, if
those guys get going.
Dylan Brooks will score at he's always been a volume shooter. What was his percentage in that game?
He was 3 of 18.
3 of 18.
1 of 10 from 3.
Now, if you go look real quick, see what his shooting percentage is for the year, and I promise you it's better than 3 of 18.
Yeah, 43% from the year.
So if he shoots anywhere near 40% and he takes those 18 shots, because I don't think he's going to shoot that poorly. I don't think he's going to shoot 3 of 18.
Neither do I.
So if he comes anywhere near that approximation, that will be okay. He's going to shoot better. He has to shoot better. You can't have 2 nights in a row like that, I don't think. And Dylan Brooks is a good player.
His value's beyond offense, too.
The thing is, will Bane remain consistent? And I don't see why not. He's been consistent this whole series.
Most consistent. He and Brandon Clark have to be.
Yeah. Would you start Clark or would you start Tillman?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I
gotta go with Tillman again.
I'm going with Tillman again too. I don't know. We'll ask Pete Pranica that at 10:45. And again, you just 2 things you got to do. You got to get more out of Triple J, and you got to figure out a way to slow down Karl Anthony Towns, because there's no doubt Chris Finch realizes now to win this series, and he should have already had this thing in the books. He's got to rely on Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
You can't have the game when Memphis came back and won when the guy gets 4 shots. He's got to be a guy that shoots 17 or 18 times and gets to the free throw line like he did the other night 17 times. Now I don't know if that'll happen, although in Minnesota it could, because there's no doubt subconsciously the officials give the breaks to the team that is at home. All you got to do is look at the amount of free throws the last 2 games. They got all the free throws. And in Minnesota, Memphis got all the free throws in Memphis.
It's honestly got to be more frustrating even for the Timberwolves. You talk about going inside the Cat so many times, but if he gets in foul trouble, the game changes. So kind of like Jaren in a lot of ways. If he gets in foul trouble, that game can change. So Grizzlies need to make sure they can defend him, but if we can get him into foul trouble early, that's big time for that.
And I guess the other question that you have to sit there and ask yourself is how fatigued is John Morant? Now, John's only 22 years old, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not like he played in 80 of the 82 games. He missed a bunch of games. Now, unfortunately, there was a stretch that he missed a bunch of games because he had knee soreness. That was toward the end of the year. In fact, what did he do? He missed like 7 of the last 8 games? Played the last game, something
played
like
57 of the 82.
57. So he shouldn't be fatigued that way. He showed us that he wasn't totally without hops in that last game because of the dunk in the third quarter and the way he took over the last 7 minutes of the game tells you that he can take over a game, that he's not fatigued or sore anymore. Although I'm sure he was tired after that game. What he said he was tired of was having to play from behind the whole time. So the question is, if Ja takes over, how early does Ja Morant take over? And can he play 44 minutes every game?
Man, taking those kind of hits 44 minutes and just the way he plays, he's not just going three-point line to three-point line or even the corner of the three-point line for that matter. He's going to the rim on every possession, it seems like. 40 minutes is a lot when you look at having to play the Warriors next series and how much they're going to rely on him for that series. Hopefully they can get it done with a big win and he doesn't have to play 40 minutes.
I am glad that you brought up Golden State. We'll get to that in a second. I'll let you know we're in the Family Leisure Studios. And it's time for another sale. They always have great sales. I just love the way they market. Vacation at home sale. It's time to enjoy a little bit of peace and family togetherness in your backyard. Play gyms and those trampolines that now have that mesh siding so they're so safe. $500 off in this vacation at home sale. Hot tubs in stock, ready to go, up to $1,000 off when you pick them up. Do-it-yourself pool specials. You can save up to $1,500 on all in-stock pools when you pick up the pool and install it yourself. If you're handy, that's $1,500 in your pocket. Patio furniture in stock, ready for pickup. All you got to do is get to I-40 and Whidden Road. So, Steph Curry was back as a starter. When he was interviewed after the game last night, he goes, "Yeah, I think that's on my resume now. That's not going to happen again." He wants to be in the starting lineup. Steve Kerr is going to accommodate. And much like Ja did in Game 5 for the Grizzlies, Curry in Game 5 was brilliant. He took over much like Ja in the fourth quarter when they had to have points. He scored 30. There was one sequence to put the game away, and he actually did that. He put his hands up like he was sleeping on a pillow, where they were double-teaming him. Two guys chasing him around. He actually used one of the big men for Denver. I don't think it was Jokic. It might have been. But he used that big guy as a screen for the two guys chasing to get himself free for a left-handed layup that put the game out of reach in the final minute of the game. It was a thing of beauty.
That was an incredible possession. To watch, I mean, the path, you know how they track the ball in golf. If you did the track on the floor of everywhere he ran during that possession, we're drawing an amazing
picture. He ran a mile in that 24 seconds.
He had to have. 20 points they gave up in the fourth quarter last night. In a series-deciding game, the Warriors held the Nuggets to 20 points. You know, everyone likes to praise Warriors. Offense, they're shooting. Look at how much they score. You know, the Nuggets to 20 points with Jokic on the floor without a legitimate center to guard him.
Yeah, no, Jokic was not himself, though. He had a hamstring issue, but he still scored. Still, it was unbelievable. What was his line? Do you have it there?
He had 30 points, 19 rebounds, 8 assists last night.
I mean, and that's not that healthy. So you know what? You know how old he is? I looked it up today.
26?
27.
27.
So he's 27 years old. Season's over. So this summer, he gets the super max, $254 million. He's assured of getting that. He doesn't want to leave Denver. I don't blame him. It's a heck of a place to live.
And he's earned that money.
He has. I mean, he's going to win his second MVP award.
And he was gassed. I mean, you could see his face is red. He's huffing and puffing. I mean, him and Chris Paul are the two most tired players I've seen in a series ever.
He is exhausted. The difference is Paul's still playing, and he's no longer playing. But he's going to get that super max. So you think about it. When he's through at that super max, he's 32 years old. And if he keeps himself in shape, which I'm sure he will, he's going to get another big contract.
Oh, you would have to think
I don't know
so.
if it'll be 254, but it will be another big contract. Whew, man. Lucky to be Novak. And it's not Novak. What is
Nikola.
Nikola Jokic's life. Not bad at all. But they're gone. You know who else really surprised me last night? Showing that now he will get signed by somebody again. And that's Boogie Cousins. Boogie was really good.
Huge in the series. Maybe the most help that Jokic got all series on his own team was from Boogie Cousins.
I think it was. Well, you know, Will Barton had a fair series.
Yeah, he had 14 last night. And he's a leader on the team
look,
for sure.
They're missing two key players, right? I mean, they're going to be good. And I think they got Barton signed up for at least another 2 or 3 years. And Barton helps them. There's no doubt. Barton's a good team guy. I don't know where Boogie Cousins will end up because I think – you know, he was just on a end-of-season contract, right?
He played on like 5 teams this year, 5 or 6 teams this year.
But he was really good for them last night. He looked like the Boogie at Sacramento. He looked like a guy who could move. He even hit a big three.
He did.
It was a big three to give them either an 8 or a 10-point. They had at one point a 10-point lead in that game.
Charles Barkley, I think, said this, and someone else did too. I can't remember. And people were making fun of him for it on the internet. You know how the internet is. They love the 3-point shots for that. But they were saying, put Jokic and Boogie out there together, Twin Towers kind of, and dare Golden State to guard you inside because they do that possession, the lineups with Draymond at the 5 so much.
Right.
They can't match up with those two guys on the court at the same time.
I think that would have been worth a gamble. Especially what did you have to lose in an elimination game?
No doubt.
You could have done that. Boogie probably was gassed, though, to be honest with you, because Jokic first had foul trouble, and then he was not 100%. So they played him probably a lot more minutes than he expected. Last thing on the NBA, Bulls get closed out by Milwaukee. So it's now the Bucks and Boston, as we expected. And I'm going to go on the record right now as saying Boston will win the series because Milwaukee gave it to them.
Really?
Yes, and here's my theory why. Milwaukee made a major error in order to avoid Brooklyn, which Boston swept. In order to avoid Brooklyn and to play Chicago, Milwaukee basically gave away the final game of the year. That final game of the year gave the Boston Celtics home court advantage. So Boston is the team that is at home for the first two games of the series. And unless they're beaten at home, they've got home court advantage. And I don't think they're going to lose at home. And I think Milwaukee gave Boston a trip to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. We are busy today. Man, it's fun. So much to talk about. Oh, and by the way, one last thing. We'll talk with Pranica about this because he did the game too. 901 FC, which needs your support, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody's showing up to AutoZone Park for their games this year. What happened to the Mafia that used to be so big? There was some banging the drum last night, I'm told, but not a lot.
When the Grizzlies are over, they're coming back out.
And there used to be, I don't think I'm making this up, 3,000-4,000 people with Latino heritage that were crazy about 901 FC. I don't think they're coming in droves anymore. I'm told 1,000 to 1,500 at the game last night. This is the historic Tampa Bay rowdy team in the USL Championship, not the MLS version, but they're really good. They're really good, and Memphis beat them 3-1 last night. They're now 4-1-1 on the year, best start they've ever had. Ben Pierman is really good at what he does. He's remade this team. There's only 5 guys back from last year's historic run, and yet they keep finding good players, and they just beat one of the better historic teams in the USL Championship. Congratulations to them. I hope more people show up to their games. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come up back, we'll talk the NFL Draft with Russell Copeland. This portion of the show brought to you by Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and, of course, the tune-up. I love the Comfort Club. I love the fact that they really do take care of your system. 2 tune-ups a year, and your system lasts longer. Your MLGW bill goes down because your system is efficient. In the winter, they do the check for carbon monoxide, but in the summer, right now, they're going to check to make sure your Freon levels are correct, along with the tune-up, all for $69. It's a no-brainer. 384-3511, the number 2 Conway. Back in a minute. Who will be the first one taken in the 2022 draft? Russell Copeland knows.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, fellas. It's Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers, and I want to make you aware of something. Did you know that April is Diamond Month? Well, it is. And if your wife or your girlfriend or maybe your daughter has a birthday in April, Diamond is her birthstone. If your wedding anniversary is in April, then your wife surely deserves a diamond. Whatever the occasion, a small gift-wrapped box containing beautiful diamond jewelry from Russell Brothers will always hit a home run and make you a hero in her eyes. A ring or a pendant, earrings or bracelet. You just can't go wrong with a piece of diamond jewelry from Russell Brothers. It'll be a gift that she'll treasure for many years. For 5 decades, Russell Brothers has been helping Memphis men find the very best in diamond jewelry for their sweethearts. In yellow or white gold, in platinum or sterling, you cannot go wrong with a gift of exquisite diamond jewelry from Russell Brothers Jewelers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins.
Something you probably do know. Progressive can not only offer you a great price when you bundle home and auto, they offer you round-the-clock protection. Something you probably don't know, the average garage door is made up of 1.3 millimeter aluminum panels. Something you probably do know, your neighbor likes to tinker with his dirt bike. Something you probably don't know, a runaway dirt bike can take out your garage door and a good portion of your car bumper. Bundle your home and auto with Progressive and get more than a great price. Get round-the-clock protection. Something you know for the things you don't know. Coverage from Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers and subject to policy terms. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
The Jeep Celebration event at Ram Truck Month is still going strong at Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat on the Pike. Get legendary performance in 2022 Dodge Challenger XST, $398 a month or $32,415. Looking for supercharged and super fast? 2022 Dodge Charger XST, $439 a month or $35,780. And workhorse ready 2022 Ram 1500 Tradesman, $445 a month or $35,890. And don't miss 2021 Fiat 500X, $289 a month, 30 MPG highway. Plus trade up and get more for your ride at Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat. So drive past the rest and come to the best or shop online, GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
84 months at 3.99, 3,500 down. Must finance through Chrysler Challenger, NH128,583, MSRP 33,415, Charger XST, NH126,525, MSRP 36,780, 1,500, MSRP 39,140, 500X, MP9 45,5410, MSRP 28,560. Includes all rebates and incentives. Excludes tax, title, and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 4/30/2022. Dealer stock only.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
You heard the man. Our title sponsor is Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. That's right at the corner of Highway 78, Lamar. And the very first exit in Mississippi, that's Craft Road. Turn left, and you will see how they set the standard for the way car business should be done. And Chris True, their GM, likes to say at Homer Skelton Hyundai, you'll never pay more than sticker price on a brand new car. Go check them out. You'll love Homer Skelton Hyundai. I love how Memphis loves golf, even city government, because Overton Park is getting redone. Pine Hill is being completely renovated. Fox Meadows, get there now, because in less than a month, there will be the installation of new hybrid Bermuda greens, that mini Verde, which is so good. Public golf has never been better, I promise. There is a new app that you can put on your phone, Memphis Public Links, where you can make tee times, you can view special offers, get tournament information, you can find out the latest golf news, and virtually stay in touch. You download it in the Apple App Store. You can get it on Google Play. It's good for smartphones as well. And there are several golf tournaments this year, including the Mayor's Cup. There's going to be a Player of the Year based on performances throughout the season. You just can't beat Memphis golf. Galloway's in perfect shape. Audubon, right on the Poplar Corridor, is a tough track, a good challenge for every level of golf. The city has invested in public golf like never before. So if you haven't played city courses in a while, I tell you, you must try it, and I assure you, you will love Memphis City Golf. Russell Copeland with the very first pick in the 2022 draft. Who will Russell take? And already the first error of the draft. I was going to try to hit the music, and I hit the drop. So we'll have to get Russell back. Can you believe I just did that? I can. I think anybody who knows my tech capabilities can believe that instead of hitting air, I hit drop. So we effort to get our friend Russell Copeland. But there are so many questions about this. Everybody's saying a deep, deep draft, maybe not a superstar. Russell Copeland, I think, will rejoin us at this very moment. So let me start this again. Russell Copeland with the oh my goodness. We'll re-effort getting Russell Copeland back. Can't believe how bad I could have done that. I was a little surprised, by the way, about all the Cincinnati Bearcats potentially in this draft. And you got Ahmad Gardner. He apparently will go at a high position. And you have got Kobe Bryant that they're talking about, spelled a little different way. You have Desmond Ritter. I mean, there's three guys that are all set to go. I'm going to let you get Russell Copeland. I will try this again with the very first pick. Who will it be? Walker, Hutchison, Ekwonu. Who, Russell Copeland?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dave, it's been a lot of uncertainty coming into the draft this year with the talent, especially for the quarterbacks. But I think the overall pick, I think Walker has moved up into that number one overall pick. But the last couple of months has been between Walker, it's been between Hutchison, back and forth. But I think the defensive end from Georgia has pretty much moved up to the number one pick. But who knows? With a lot of trades going on, a lot of potential trades, it could definitely shake up the draft come tonight.
Give me one or two, because I hear that. I believe Jimmy Sexton, super agent extraordinaire, was on with Stats and Gabe yesterday, and he said that there would be a bunch of trades. Who do you think are the 2 or 3 teams that will be most involved?
Well, I think when you look at the Seahawks are at 9. I think they could trade up with the Giants. The Giants have 2 picks at 5 and 7, or they could trade back and maybe try to get one of these quarterbacks later on. Baker Mayfield's name has been coming up a lot. Do the Seahawks, do they have confidence in Drew Lock? Will they make a trade for Baker Mayfield? Also, you look at the Carolina Panthers. I think they could make a trade to try to move all the way up to number 1. Those are 2 teams that I'm looking at in the top 10. But also, you look at the Steelers. The Steelers are picking at number 20. I think they need a first-round pick. They do have your former Bears quarterback, Trubisky, but I think they want to try to move up and try to catch one of those quarterbacks. Then when you get down a little bit, I see the Chiefs. They can make a trade with the Ravens to get the number 1 overall pick because they've lost some receivers. Yes, they picked up some, but they also need some help in that secondary. Look at the safety, look at the cornerbacks. And another one is the Packers. I think the Packers may try to make a move to move up to get number 21. They've lost some receivers. So I just think it's going to be a lot of shaking up in the top 10, a lot of players. If you make that trade, then you look at the quarterback situation, Dave. But this is a really big draft as far as depth. You can get a lot of depth in the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round, but these trades could change. And one late trade, Dave, keep an eye on, it's a lot of rumors, out in Arizona when you look at Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. Kyler Murray could be traded as well in a team that's coming up. When you look at the Texans, they may want to trade and get the 13th pick, the 27th pick, and the 80th pick to Arizona. So that's something that has come up as well. But and also you look at Deebo Samuels. His name has come up, and I talked about the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf could be in that trade when you look at Seattle tonight.
I was curious because everybody says Carolina wants to move up. They're at 6. They need a quarterback. Wouldn't they get a quarterback at 6?
Well, yes, but overall, when you look at them, that definitely could be a quarterback at 6. I'm looking at Malik Willis. He could be there at 6. But when you look at some of the picks that they could get by moving up, you just never know. But if I was Carolina, I'd stay at 6. And I think I'll be able to get the quarterback that I want at 6. I don't think a quarterback will go in the top 5. But then again, they could even maybe want to move down because maybe at number 6, they may not think the value at the quarterback position this year, should be, top 6. So it's going to be really interesting tonight, Dave. These top 10 picks are going to be really interesting. But there's a lot of depth, Dave, at the cornerback position, a lot of depth at the wide receiver position. We'll talk about Kevin Austin. I think he'll go sometime tomorrow. And the defensive end, defensive lineman, there's a lot of positions there. There's also a lot of great value position at the offensive line. So I think the offensive line, I think the wide receivers, and I think the defensive line, I think it'll be a bulk of those going in the first round.
Well, that's a little bit of a problem for both Dylan Parham and Calvin Austin, right? There are so many good receivers and offensive linemen that they've backed up. Most of the mocks I see, they're 4th rounders.
Well, I tell you what, like I said, it depends on these drafts. And a lot of it, they believe it or not, it depends on the quarterback position. I think it's going to be 3, but if you end up getting 4 or 5, then that definitely does push some other positions back. But I think wide receivers will tend to go in the first round. If you get 4 or 5 that's going in the first round, I do think Kevin Austin will see his name picked in the second round because I think they were beat a couple of years ago when you had 13 first and second round wide receivers that went. I think that you'll have about 15 or 16 to go in the first 2 rounds. So it's a big pool for wide receivers.
You've mentioned Malik Willis, the quarterback from Liberty. He's probably going to be the first quarterback taken. is Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh, who came back just to improve his stock and show NFL scouts that he could not only throw the ball but could read defenses. Is he second? Is Desmond Ridder or Matt Corral from Ole Miss? Are they second or third? How do you see the order? And you're saying 3 you think go in the first round?
I think 3 goes in the first round. I think what Kenny Pickett has been able to do coming back to school, I think he did rise his draft stock. Matt Corral is right there. So I think in the middle of the first round, I think you'll see Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett, but also Desmond Ridder is a name that's been coming up. You know, you just may see if the Pittsburgh Steelers do not move up early and get to number 12 and number 20, if Desmond Ridder's there, he could be in that first round. So I do think it's going to be 3. But, Dave, you know how it is with quarterback position. It's a quarterback-driven league. They talk about these quarterbacks this year are not the quarterbacks that we've seen in the past, but teams need quarterbacks. So you may even see 4 go in the first round. But I definitely think 3 will go. Give me Malik Willis. I think Kenny Pickett goes second. Matt Corral will be right there. I think it'll be a toss-up with Desmond Ridder maybe get into the first round.
I find it so interesting that all these mock experts, they say that this is one of the deeper drafts that we have seen in a number of years, yet they say there is no sort of superstar. And, you know, I think that is best said by the quarterbacks because there's nobody in here that you're going, oh, yeah, this guy is for sure. There's no Trevor Lawrence like there was when Carolina took him, or not when Jacksonville took him a year ago. But is there somebody that you think in those top 5s when you're talking defensive ends, or even a guy like Derek Stingley, the cornerback, is there a superstar in there?
Well, you know, I disagree with a lot of people that are saying. I think there's a lot of talent. It may not be the quarterback position, but, you know, I'm looking at Hutchinson. You know, I like his motor at Michigan. I think Walker's going to be a great player. Let's look at some of the offensive line. Evan Neal, the offensive tackle for Alabama. We look each year. Alabama puts players in the National Football League, and they play on both sides of the ball. We always know about the cornerbacks, the wide receivers, the skill positions, but the offensive line and defensive line come out of Alabama. They do very well. I like Ahman Gardner. I like Gardner from Cincinnati. I think he's a shutdown cornerback. I think he's tall, he's long, he's rangy. I think he'll be a good player. Derek Stingley, he's moved up, has great speed. He's physical at the line of scrimmage. These are players that I think would do well. Also, I like Charles Cross, the offensive line for Mississippi State. What I like about him is that he's a big physical offensive line. He can play that left tackle position. You have to be able to protect the quarterback. But talking about Evan Neal, he's not just a left tackle. He can play left tackle. He can play the guard position. He can also play right guard. So he can get into the National Football League, and he can be moved around. He doesn't play center, but he can play three other down line positions.
What I like about Charles Cross is he won't be in Starkville next year when Memphis has to play them. That's what right. I like, and that slides me over for a second to the spring game. You and I were both involved in the broadcast that we did of portions of that game. What struck you the most? And I'll start with me. Most of the time, defenses are ahead of offenses in spring. That was not the case this time around.
Definitely not. I think that comes to play when you look at the offense that Tim Clancy is bringing in. I think it's the same type of offense. I think the terminology is going to be the same. So when you look at all of the skill positions and the quarterback positions, they can relate to this offense and they can go right from where they left off of. The terminology is not going to be different. I think when you look from the defensive standpoint, you know, moving from a 3-4 to a 4-2-5, I think the terminology is different and being able to get players playing in different positions. And also, I don't think that they showed a whole lot, but I think this defense will be ready to play. But offensively, yes, the offense looked great. I think the quarterbacks, they looked outstanding. That quarterback room looked dynamic. Seth looked good, but Grant Gunnell was throwing the football at 6'5", 6'6". He had some touch. He showed some poise. He showed the deep ball. And Tevin Carter also showed the arm. I mean, he made one throw. We were talking about it in the booth. I mean, he was on his back foot, and he just threw it about 60, 70 yards. The skill positions look very good. So offensively, they look great. But I do think the defense, when you put the terminology in and the players get accustomed to what the defensive coordinator is trying to do, I think they'll be ready to go when it comes in the fall.
You want to give me a way too early kind of prediction on how many wins this Tiger football team gets?
Well, Dave, you know, I hate to do things like that, but honestly, I'm excited about this football team. And anytime that you got a lot of quarterbacks that can play, It tones well, skill positions they can play. Of course, it is going to go to the defense. Can this defense be able to come back and get out to a good start? But I can see this team winning 9 games. Hopefully that may be a stretch for some, but 9 games is where I'm looking at. Hopefully even better, but 8 to 9 games is where I am, Dave.
I'd sign up for the 9 for sure, because that schedule is not easy by any means. All right, last thing for you. There's a HBO host of a sports show who is a very smart guy. His name is Bomani Jones, whose contention is the draft was put in initially to restrict player salaries. Now, the draft's been around forever. It also, in my mind, gives competitive balance to a league. But when we're strictly talking about money, Bomani Jones is probably correct. It does place a restriction on earnings for players as they come in. What is your sense of what he says should be free agency right from the get-go for players?
Well, Dave, I'm all about the players getting money, but I think it has to be a balance. And you look at, 10, 11 years ago, rookies came in and they got a whole lot of money. I think the CBA, they changed that. And what agents were able to do to combat that is that you look at the first rounders now, all of their contracts are guaranteed. I think players have played great in college, but we're going on potential. And I think they have to be able to earn, in my opinion, to earn their keep. I think they sign 3 years, they sign 4 years, they sign 5 years. When you look at today's game, if you sign a 5-year contract, you're playing great in year 3, you're going to renegotiate. You're going to get a big, huge contract. You sign a 4-year deal, you're going to renegotiate around 2, maybe the 3rd year. So, I like the way the system is put in. And also, Dave, the way he's putting it, you really have to be able to have a medium. And if that's the case, if every college player could come out and negotiate what team they went to, you wouldn't have Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. It gives the opportunity for teams that are at the lower end to be able to draft potentially good players so they can be able to compete so we can have some parity. And also, I don't think the NFL could last that. If every player could negotiate and go to any team that he wanted to, I think the agents with the biggest money, with the biggest pockets, and teams that are doing well, those teams will stay good, and at the bottom of the league, they will always be at the bottom.
Yeah, the biggest markets with all the extra revenue feeds that they can get because of their market size would dominate, no doubt in my mind. Russell, as always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. You can grade out who did well and who did not.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, I hope I don't blow this as I take him off the air. Whew. I need total lessons on just how to read what's air and what's drop. Terrible. But I'll tell you what's not terrible. That's my good friend, Ken Garland. Ken Garland understands if you're using him and his firm, you're making a commitment. That's why he commits to you. Whether it is for your dream home and building that from scratch or maybe a renovation, you love the lot, you love your location, you love the feel of the house, but you want the modern amenities. He does renovation with innovation. All the new modern amenities are put into your old home, and it feels so darn good. And he's going to work with you because he knows the commitment you're making. So he commits to you quality construction on time and, just as important, on budget. This has been going on for 2 generations in his family. That is a fact. Him and his dad over probably about 60 years now worth of incredible knowledge and experience in building homes. Go to kengarland.com, see what I'm talking about, then call 751-1632. He's fun to talk to. He sees little details and big picture all at once. Perfect for a home builder. That's why you've got to call Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Back in a minute, we'll talk to Grizz in Game 6 with Pete Prenica. He comes your way in a minute.
Let former Memphis Tiger Gabe Kuhn and Brett Norsworthy take you home every afternoon with Sports Time on Sports 56. Weekdays from 3 to 6 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
If you have damage to your home and have your insurance carrier involved, you need a great contractor. You also need a team that has seen claims of all shapes and sizes, residential or commercial. After our inspection, we'll share our findings and give you our professional opinion. Some people say you get what you pay for. However, our opinion is free. Trust the name you can depend on, like the tens of thousands of families Brian and I have served over the past 20 years here in the Mid-South. Brian Elder Roofing. We'll measure your roof from outer space and share our team's experience for your property and claim. repaired roofs, replacement roofs, big roofs, tiny roofs, insurance roofs, flat roofs, TPO roofs, asphalt roofs, tile roofs, slate roofs, metal roofs. If your roof needs some love, call me. 901-867-0303 for Brian Elder Roofing and Contracting.
Call 867-0303. Brian Elder's Roofing Solutions.
I've got Jeff Allen on the line over there at Gossett Kia South, and we're ready to hear what's shaking over there on Mount Moriah.
We are shaking up the competition with our crazy deals at Gossett Kia South on Mount Moriah. Check this out, Randy. I've got a 2022 Kia Forte LXS $219 a month and a 2022 Kia Soul LX $229 a month. Both 36-month lease and $27.99 due at signing.
I'm ready for vacation, Jeff. What you got?
Let the adventure begin in a 2022 Kia Sorento LX $299, 36-month lease and $39.99 due at signing.
And always equipped with a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia South on Mount Moriah.
2680 Mount Moriah or KiaMountMoriah.com. All 36-month leases, $650 acquisition fee, 30,000 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage. Forte, NE 472,058, MSRP 21,270. Soul, N 782,8937, MSRP 22,005. Sorento, NG 116, 389, MSRP 31,170. Includes all rebates and incentives. Must finance through Kia. Excludes tax title license. With approved credit, see dealer for complete details. Offer valid through 5/2/2022. Dealer stock only.
Hi, Jimmy Stovall here with Corky's Barbecue. For 38 years, Corky's been proud to serve our legendary slow-smoked barbecue in our dining room and drive-thru. Whether you're stopping by to pick up a barbecue sandwich or some of our award-winning catfish, you can add a third of a rack of our world-famous ribs for only $6.99. You heard that right. Add a third of a rack of ribs to any order for only $6.99.
Encore flavor, Corky's Barbecue.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Always fun to talk with Pete Pranica, who kept his composure as the Grizzlies turned things around the other night. You did not go crazy. I heard your call. I was very attentive. And, do you ever get nervous for these things when you know how much is on the line, Pete Pranica?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, this is, in fact, I talked with Ian Eagle of TNT before the game, and, that's part of the fun. There are nerves involved, but you realize, and it took me a while to remember this, you don't have any impact on the outcome of the game.
Right.
You're nervous as all get all, but there's nothing you can do to impact the game. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely nerve wracking. And, you're down 13 because, people remember the jaw dunk, right, at the end of the third quarter.
Right.
Well, then the Minnesota goes on a run. And you're thinking, oh, Lord, are we going to go back to Minnesota down 3-2 and have to face that crowd in an elimination game? But thankfully, Ja ducked into the phone booth in the nick of time, and the Grizzlies now have the lead in the series.
I don't think there's any question about his soreness or his fatigue level or whatever. I mean, he just decided he was going to take over the basketball game. Question I guess I would have for you, I watched Steph Curry do this last night against Denver to shut them down, and that is, when do you think Ja, who we now know clearly is the clutch superstar we had all hoped he would be, when do you think the timing on taking over a game should be?
He's pretty good at reading the room, in the same way Chris Paul is good at reading the room and seeing what his team needs. 7 assists in the first half, only 2 in the second half, because his team needed scoring. His team needed a spark. The building needed some life. And so he throws down one of the most ferocious in-game dunks in a close game. This isn't a breakaway in a blowout. I mean, this is a tightly contested playoff game, and he comes up with that dunk, and it got the building alive. I know Minnesota went on their run, but it kind of served as a reminder to the crowd, to the Timberwolves, and to the rest of the Grizzlies, we're not done yet. And I think it symbolically meant a lot to the team, and it was also Ja's coming out of the phone booth moment. It's like, okay, I'm not going to be distributor Ja. I'm going to try and take this thing over.
I think that got him going, and I think he alluded to this. I think the Patrick Beverley thing in the final 7 minutes or so of the game when he'd scored over Ja and did the too little sign that he stupidly does. I thought that really inspired Ja.
Probably. I mean, John never lacks for motivation. And then after the game saying, those of you who went over to the other side, stay over on the other side. So John never lacks for motivation. You can find motivation pretty much anywhere. And unfortunately for Minnesota, Pat Beverly decided to give him another reason to be motivated and close out that game.
So what do you think are 2 or 3 of the big keys if the Grizzlies were to win and Minnesota close this thing out in 6? What do they have to be?
They have to be the best version of themselves, which they have been only sporadically and seemingly in fourth quarters when they've been down and in game 2. Have to be more disciplined defensively. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a matchup nightmare, but he can't be a matchup nightmare if he's not on the floor. And he's just got to be more disciplined. It's not an officiating issue. I mean, the calls against Jaren, majority of them have been legitimate fouls. He's trying to drive and he grabs somebody's shorts. His off arm comes off. The offensive fouls have been totally legitimate. So he has to be more disciplined on both ends of the floor so he can stay on the floor. And then obviously got to make free throws. This is a Grizzlies team that is dominant in terms of getting to the line, but they're only a handful of makes more than Minnesota. Minnesota's shooting like 83% from the line. The Grizzlies at 72%. And you just hope that a missed free throw doesn't end up costing you a game, which when you look at it, if the Grizzlies shoot their free throws well early in game 5, well, maybe you're not having to come back from 13 down. So making free throws, being the best version of themselves, making Minnesota uncomfortable. Minnesota is the team now that is facing elimination. They're feeling the pressure. They are on their home court. All the pressure is on them. So you have to make sure that this relatively inexperienced Minnesota team, playoff-wise, feels the discomfort of an elimination game in front of their home fans.
Jaren Jackson played 17 minutes in the last game. How many minutes has he got to be out there for the Grizzlies to be themselves, as you say?
I think it's got to be, in the 30 range. He's a big part of this team. And like I said, Brevin and I talked about it on the call of Game 5. Both teams have a matchup nightmare. For Minnesota, it's Karl Anthony Towns. Guy shoots 40% from 3, 50% inside the arc, 60% in the restricted area. Hard to deal with. Jaren Jackson Jr., 3-point threat, defensive menace, good around the rim. You can't be a matchup nightmare if you're not on the floor. The best ability is availability, and if you're not available to your team, it's really hard. So I think Jaren needs to be on the floor, upper 20s into the 30s in terms of minutes.
Clark had the game of his career. It was clearly his best playoff performance, but under the circumstances, I think the best game we've ever seen him play. Should he start or should Tillman start? Because, look, last time he started, the Grizzlies got off to a 13-2 start. How will Taylor Jenkins play that?
I like Clark coming off the bench simply because he brings juice off the bench. And also, you go back to Clark's rookie year, the great synergy he had with Tyus Jones. And so when you bring those two guys off the bench together, it gives you good bench pop. And this is a series where Minnesota's bench, outside of some sporadic contributions, I know that Beasley had, 23 in game 1, but other than that, their bench has been fairly pedestrian, and that's one of the edges that the Grizzlies have is with their bench, and a big reason for that is because Brandon's been coming off the bench. So you got to keep something in reserve, and hopefully Tillman can stay on the floor and avoid fouls and cause some problems for Karl Anthony Towns. But I would have Clark coming off the bench for sure.
All right, last thing, real quick, switch gears. 901 FC, you did the game last night, and they won a huge one over Tampa. They're 4-1-1. That's their best start in history now. We got only 5 guys back from last year's really good team. Tell me about this ball club, and how do we get more people to watch this thing?
Well, I wish more people would go to AutoZone Park. Last night was a beautiful night. I got another chance Saturday night, taking on another great club in the championship in the Miami FC. But to beat Tampa Bay 3-1, this is a very good Tampa Bay Rowdies team. You've got guys like Philip Goodrin, Aaron Malloy coming out of Ireland and playing in USL League One, which is a step below the championship. They're playing very good soccer right now. Trey Hughes, who is a former, I think, Big Ten goalkeeper of the year with Indiana, he's been real solid in between the sticks. And Ben Pierman just demands that these guys give maximum effort, and the talent level that Tim Howard has been able to bring in, I think it's really good. It's a more balanced club because last year everything was Kyle Murphy, set all the goal-scoring records. But you have got a more balanced attack. It is a team now that is finishing right around 20% of their chances, which is among the league leaders in USL Championship soccer.
Wow.
Previous years, they were around 10% completed chances.
Wow, that's double, if I do my math correctly. Pete, always a pleasure. Safe travels. I'm sure we'll talk with you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. That is Pete Pranica. He is the TV voice of the Grizzlies, and he will be jetting to Minneapolis a little bit later today. Final portion of the show brought to you by James Davis. That's James Davis Men's Store in the Laurelwood Shopping Center. They still got the great Paul Batenley suit offer. All three of the Woloshin boys for this wedding in May. For Nathan's wedding, we'll be wearing Paul Batenley suits. 2 for $8.95. You can't beat the deal. Material is absolutely the best. You can get a classic fit or trim fit. We're all going back to the office now. Time to dress back up casually, but look nice. James Davis has 5-pocket and performance fabric and cotton fabric, an amazing array of pants with an incredible selection of denim if that's what you're into. And there's an abundance of sports shirts, either button up for the office or they got polos. You can do that for work or, of course, on the golf course. I know you're working out. James Davis is working with you. They got the Task workout wear, which is the way to go. It's this great combination of cotton and bamboo, which combined helps you perform. And the stance system's so popular, this custom fitting system, it now takes about a month turnaround. But it's the best, and only at James Davis Men's Store in the Laurelwood Shopping Center. We thank Russell Copeland and Pete Pranica. We'll talk about the draft tomorrow and a whole bunch more. Johnny Radio is next. Have a great day, everyone.
I know the sweetest thing